Welcome, everyone. Today we are delving into a very fascinating topic, as talk of the town, how India is harnessing the power of AI to drive innovation, creativity. And in this confluence of technology, how creativity is uh, rolling into play to drive that innovation and that global impact. So we have our esteemed panel here, and I would like to dive into those questions. So my first question is to Shayak. How do you think India is innovating and doing that global impact with AI revolution?
So I think few things. Microsoft has recently released usage by different countries, and if you look at it, India is number 2. I think if you look at Google's data, India is number 2. So that's the good news. Now, if you look at global statistics of the number of use cases or etc. that's being built out of India, India is number 3 or number 4. There are two separate reports. One report says India is number 3. Another report says India is number 4. Okay, so now for the good news. Now for the bad news. The bad news is we haven't created a single good model out of India yet. Okay? All the good models are created in China and in the US. And it's not like you can't create models in India. You can create models in India, but due to lack of the right kind of resource, which is money, which translates into GPUs, which is what is needed. Recently, the DeepSeek V3 model came out, where they showed that you can actually launch an OpenAI level model, O1 level model, for about $5.1 million. We can spend $5.1 million as India to build a good model in India. And we should not say that India ke liye banao, build something for Indic languages only. Okay, that's needed. But genuinely speaking, we've heard this too often, that India doesn't need a model, we will use models, we will create use cases. Reality ye ho raha hai. US government has recently published a bill which may become a reality in 120 days from now, 118 days from now, which will prevent us from getting access to these models, which will prevent us from getting the weights, which will prevent us from getting access to the GPUs. Now, one side is very good news that Reliance and NVIDIA have recently tied up, and they're going to start the world's biggest data center. I'm hoping that will backward integrate into GPU manufacturing in India. But I still feel that there's a so we break it into 4 levels, summarizing. At the top level, use cases. Yes, India is doing well, especially at an individual developer level. India is number 2, number 3, number 4, depending on which report you look. Second, below that is a platform level. I think we are horribly behind US and China, but ahead of the rest of the world. Below that, at the model level, I think we don't exist. Europe is ahead of us, US is ahead of us, China is ahead of us. And right at the bottom, at the GPU or the manufacturing level, we are negative. We have a debt at this point.
Yeah, from the manufacturing, I would like to ask Debmalya, what do you think about AI's revolution in healthcare to in your respective organization where you have manufacturing as a basis? Where do you see that AI has been revolutionizing this?
Thank you. So I'll start with manufacturing as a domain, and also I'll extend my answer to a few other domains, especially retail, where we see a lot of traction in AI. So at Bosch and also in other manufacturing companies, typically in manufacturing, there are a few use cases which have already become mainstream in AI and which are currently on the verge of becoming mainstream in Gen AI. Right? I'll start with the AI part of it first. So in AI, we have managing or maintaining an asset, right, which can be a factory or shop floor equipment is one of the key criteria of and a key pain point for customers today. And asset maintenance, predictive asset maintenance, prescriptive asset maintenance is a massive, massive use case where AI is used in a pretty mainstream way. That's one. Second, if I look at the ecosystem where if I want to talk about supply chain and logistics, which is a key part of manufacturing today, AI is being used heavily in establishing a resilient supply chain, both across supply chain planning as well as the aspect around the sourcing and the delivering part of it as well. So within the entire value chain of supply chain today, if I break it down, plan, source, make, and deliver, AI is being used heavily across all of these four areas. That's the second massive component within manufacturing where AI is being used. The third is customer service. Customer service has matured by leaps and bounds today as far as the usage of AI is concerned. If I look at the number of virtual assistants, chatbots, and the integration of Gen AI that happens within customer service today is massive. And when I say massive, the sky is the limit. There are a lot of R&D organizations today which is happening within the customer service space. So these are the three use cases or three components within manufacturing that I see AI and Gen AI being used. The scope of Gen AI, obviously, we have started with India as a nation and also globally to that matter. But with Gen AI, a lot of context is being introduced within assistance, and that's a good thing. So a lot of these use cases are automatically being matured with AI. Outside of manufacturing, aspects like verticals like retail are getting transformed with AI. I can think of two use cases. We have quite a lot more. One would be the entire customer experience, where you look at things like recommendations, things like customer support on e-commerce platforms, things like choosing the right either merchandise or shoes or any other equipment on an e-commerce platform. So these things are getting heavily influenced by AI today. Customer service, if I look at it, even in India, most of the e-commerce platforms, particularly in retail and also offline retail, are using AI and Gen AI, not Gen AI, but AI in a big way to ensure that the customer experience is transformed in a big way. So these are a few use cases, in my view, mostly in manufacturing, as per your question, and also retail that I can think of.
Thank you so much. Snehil, you have a young startup, and where do you see AI being used in young startups and how it can actually have an impact?
Yeah, so as Gen AI keeps improving, right, it is becoming very easy for example, I'll tell you, last Sunday, one very young 22-year-old founder from Udaipur called me and requested for a call. I got in a call with him by using SMS Gupshup ka API for placing calls, using OpenAI ka API for summarizing a call, and one other API for voice. He created a assistant on WhatsApp. I can just tell that assistant ki, hey, can you just call up my friend Amit and ask if we are confirmed for dinner tomorrow, right? That AI within seconds will call Amit, talk to him, confirm, ask if there are any other messages. Within second, will send me a summary on the WhatsApp along with the recording of the call. 22-year-old guy using 5,000 rupees intern from Udaipur built this in less than 2 weeks on a hackathon mode, right? So AI as a base layer, or L1 we can call it if we talk in terms of blockchain, that is becoming very commoditized, right? India has abundance of software engineers. India has abundance of product managers. Recently, Mark Zuckerberg as well as Mark Benioff of Salesforce, they said ki yaar, we won't be hiring new engineers because काफी productivity. But even at TrulyMadly, our 30% of new code written in last 6 months is AI written using Claude. Our tech team's productivity has increased by minimum 30%, right? So using AI, we have abundance of talent in India. Now creating software will not require coding skills per se in say next 1.5 year. You just need to articulate your requirements nicely. That will become the superpower. Then layers are there. Sadly, yes, India के अभी कोई foundational model नहीं बने हैं. But I think अगर नहीं भी बनेंगे तो we won't be left very far behind. PHP, Node.js ये सब इंडिया में नहीं बने, but सबसे अच्छे इंजीनियर्स आपको इंडिया में मिल जाते हैं, राइट? हम बना पाएंगे तो बहुत अच्छी बात होएगी, बट उसके लिए ना पूरा पहले ग्राउंड लेवल पे वर्क होना पड़ेगा. एक स्टूडेंट अगर GPU एक्सेस ही नहीं कर सकता, इतना महंगा है, यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में अवेलेबल, वहाँ पे क्यों बना पाते हैं? वहाँ की यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में मिलता है सब कुछ, राइट? आप अच्छी यूनिवर्सिटी में हो, नॉर्मल यूनिवर्सिटी में भी हो, यू कैन गेट एक्सेस टू GPU. उनके कॉलेज में अच्छे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर होते हैं. तो वो जब तक सॉल्व नहीं होता ना, तब तक मुश्किल रहेगा कि इंडिया से फाउंडेशनल चीज़ें निकल के आएंगी. बट तब तक बिकॉज वी हैव सच ह्यूज वॉल्यूम्स ऑफ फाउंड एंटरप्रेन्योर्स भी हैं, अब तो इंजीनियर्स हैं, एंड अभी वो लाइन बहुत ब्लर होती रहेगी कि हु कैन बिकम व्हाट, राइट? इफ अ गाय फ्रॉम उदयपुर लिविंग देयर सिंस हिज लाइफ कैन क्रिएट दिस, अगर मैं अपनी टेक टीम को बोलूँगा ना ये बना दो, कहेंगे 2 महीने लगेंगे. राइट? तो बिकॉज दे वो उसके वह कंस्ट्रेंट्स ही नहीं है ना वो वाली, उसको पता है कि यार ये तो मैं बना लूँगा बैठ के, दिन भर रात भर लगा रहूँगा. तो आई थिंक अगले इस साल 2025 में वी विल सी अ लॉट ऑफ एप्लीकेशन लेयर्स ऑन टॉप ऑफ फाउंडेशनल मॉडल्स. इवन चाहे वो एआई इंडिया में बनी हो, यूरोप में बनी हो, यूएस में बनी हो, इंडिक लैंग्वेजेस उसको आती हैं. आज आप चैट जीपीटी से मराठी में बात करो वो कर लेगी, राइट? तो वो क्योंकि अब वो एआई ने लैंग्वेज सीखना सीख लिया तो वो सारी लैंग्वेज सीख जाएगी ना, राइट? देन इन स्टार्टअप्स लाइक आवर, सो वी यूज़ एआई, हम लोग बहुत सालों से यूज़ कर रहे हैं, even in our matchmaking as well as our moderation algorithms. But now we have started using Gen AI in those modules, and वो काफ़ी level up हो गया है उसका, and cost बहुत down हो गई है. Because पहले अगर मेरे को moderation के लिए AWS की API यूज़ करनी पड़ती थी, recognition नाम से एक उनकी API आती है. अब मेरे को हर चीज़ अगर चेक करनी है कि ये जेंडर सेम है क्या, कि इसमें कुछ लिखा तो नहीं हुआ, इसमें कोई ऑब्ससेनिटी तो नहीं है, हर बारी मेरे को एक एक हिट मारना पड़ता था. एंड अगर मेरे को 6 फॉर एग्जांपल वी हैव एंड वी आवर गेट कीपर एल्गोरिथम इज कॉल्ड चॉक AI दार, राइट? एंड इट वर्क्स ऑन 5 layers. फर्स्ट इट चेक्स देयर शुड बी अ ह्यूमन फेस इन द फोटोग्राफ. सो अनलाइक अदर डेटिंग एप्स, you will never come across a photo of a cat or a dog or a good morning wallpaper on TrulyMadly, right? Then it checks कि कोई सेलिब्रिटी की फ़ोटो तो नहीं है. फॉर सम रीज़न मोदी जी और विराट कोहली की फ़ोटो बहुत डालते हैं लोग. देन इट चेक देयर शुड बी नथिंग रिटन ऑन द इमेज. देन इट चेक्स देयर शुड बी नो ऑब्ससेनिटी, एंड देन इट चेक्स कि अगर प्रोफाइल पे मेल है तो ये भी मेल आ रहा है क्या, राइट? पहले हम इसको ऐसा सीरियल काइंड ऑफ AI को यूज़ करके डिफरेंट मॉडल्स, हर 5 लेयर्स का एक डिफरेंट मॉडल था और सिंगल हिट जाती थी. नाउ विद Gen AI वी हैव जस्ट ट्रेन्ड द Gen AI ऑन द रूल्स, एंड वो एक ही हिट में बता देता है कि यार इसमें ये खराबी है. इनफैक्ट मान लो अगर हमने बोला हुआ है कि यार आपको गॉगल्स वाली फ़ोटो मत डालो, अच्छे नहीं आएंगे आपको लाइक, तो वो फोटो को रिजेक्ट नहीं करेगा बट रेकमेंड कर देगा कि हे फोटो इज़ गुड, बट इफ़ यू रिमूव गॉगल्स यू विल गेट मोर लाइक्स. फॉर एग्जाम्पल वी नो फ्रॉम आवर डेटा एंड ऑल द सिंगल्स इन द ऑडियंस कैन बेनिफिट फ्रॉम दैट. लड़कियों को गॉगल्स वाली फ़ोटो नहीं पसंद आती, जिम सेल्फीज़ नहीं पसंद आती, सेल्फीज़ नहीं पसंद आती, राइट? ये सब चीज़ें, और वो गंजी में फ़ोटो डाल देते हो, वो कुछ नहीं भाई बाइसेप्स नहीं देखने से तुम्हारे. तो नाउ विद आवर मॉडल अगर आपने विराट कोहली की डाली ना, वो बोलता है कि यार विराट है अनुष्का, प्लीज़ आप अपनी फ़ोटो डालो, राइट? तो ऑल दैट इज़ टुडे पॉसिबल, एंड इन नेक्स्ट 1 year तो आई थिंक पता नहीं कहाँ से कहाँ पहुँच जाएंगे हम.
Can I add a little bit to that?
Yeah, sure, please.
Okay, so bringing the question back to how startups can benefit from AI. See, India's strength, as everybody from Jensen Wang to Mr. Ambani has said, is that India has an abundance of software talent. And ठीक है, that software talent comes in different ranges, कि कुछ होते हैं जो बहुत ही अच्छे होते हैं, कुछ होते हैं जो हमारे ऑपरेशनल लेवल के होते हैं, but that's a different story. Reality है कि इंडिया में ना scarcity इस चीज़ की है कि sufficient capital नहीं है and sufficient knowledge base नहीं है कि scalable global application कैसे बनाया जाता है. और ये दोनों की जो कमी है ना, ये AI दूर कर देता है. See, today AI as a product manager knows as much as the best influencers or the best thought leaders in the US, क्योंकि उन सबकी ये पढ़ रखा है. So it gives you, आज he said that 30% of his code is written by AI. मैं गारंटी से कह रहा हूँ 100% of my code is written by AI. We literally wrote a platform जहाँ पे आप जाके बोलो आपको क्या चाहिए, पूरा लिख के दे देगा, पूरा कोड करके बना के दे देगा. और फिर बोलो ना मुझे ये पसंद नहीं आया, इसको ऐसे कर दो, उसको वैसे कर दो. Our own time, I'll just give you a real example and then I'll tell you how startups can benefit. हमें 6 लोग 6 महीने लगते थे for an enterprise grade application बनाने. 36 developer months. It takes 1 developer 45 days to do the same today. So we just reduced the time by 30 times. ठीक है? तो ये जो हमें फंडिंग उठाना होता था, it was primarily to pay people, right? It was primarily to डिसाइड कि क्या काम करेगा क्या नहीं करेगा, टेस्टिंग कैसे करेंगे, मार्केट में एक्सेस कैसे मिलेगा. लास्ट लेवल हो जाता है डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का, कि बड़े कंपनीज के पास ना बड़े डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन होते हैं, स्टार्टअप्स के पास नहीं है, लोगों को पता कैसे चलेगा. टुडे वी बिल्ट एआई कैपेबिलिटीज जिसमें आप बोलो वो खुद ब खुद टारगेट ऑडियंस को एक एक करके पहुंच जाएगा विद नॉट दैट मच कॉस्ट, क्योंकि सर्वर ना मैं मेरे लैपटॉप से चला सकता हूँ.
Already Reddit is now flooded with agents who are
हर जगह
acquiring
पे.
users for startups.
हर जगह पे आपके लैपटॉप पे बैठ के काम कर रहा है, कोई एडिशनल कॉस्ट नहीं है. तो एक स्टार्टअप को 2 लैपटॉप खरीदने में कितना कॉस्ट लेता है, या एक छोटा सा ये मशीन लेने में कितना कॉस्ट लेता है. सो दैट मच वो ले लेगा, he will get more revenue than the local businesses will. And so he is on his way, or she is on her way. So the problem that startups had, कि we don't know how Silicon Valley is scaling. And there was, so I've done it in Silicon Valley, I've done it in India. There's a very different way of working there. We didn't know that here. क्योंकि India में the senior mindset or the growth mindset is limited by debt. कि पहले profitable बनो. हम spaceship भी बनाते, पूछते mileage क्या देता है. हम ये नहीं पूछते कि पहुंचेगा कहाँ तक, हम पूछते माइलेज क्या देता है. वेरएज यूएस में पूछता है पहुंचेगा कहाँ, मार्स पहुंचेगा या उसके आगे पहुंचेगा. सो देयर इज अ बिग डिफरेंस इन थॉट प्रोसेस. तो जिन यंगस्टर्स को वो टैलेंट है, या मिडिल एज पीपल, सीनियर पीपल, जिसको भी वो टैलेंट है एंड एम्बिशन है, एआई विल क्रिएट द पाथ. जेन्युइनली स्पीकिंग, वी आर एंटरिंग इनटू अ वर्ल्ड वेयर वी विल हैव आवर ओन पर्सनल एआईज. आई एम नॉट मेकिंग दिस अप. बाय द एंड ऑफ दिस ईयर आपके अगर पर्सनल कार्स है, वेट फॉर इट, यू विल हैव योर पर्सनल एजेंट.
Prabhu, do you agree that we have a scarcity of investment resources? And what do you think the key drivers of India's AI revolution?
Yeah.
And also, I would really like you to add, because you had Engro Technologies, that where does the creativity play a role here?
Yeah. So, India AI revolution, right? It involves a lot of things, right? Actually, government, right? There's a technology advancement happened in India. And there's government policies, and we have right, we have tech pool, and also there's actually thriving the such ecosystem we have, right, in the startup, right. So government has done, like, right, they have set up NSAI, right, that's a strategy for right, and also, right, Indian government is coming with their own this right, data protection and privacy laws, and also there's a cloud computing, right. It also play a big role because affordability cloud computing. Right, that also, right, India's AI revolution happened, right, so those are things, right, and also improved connectivity today, right. Look at 5G is there everywhere, right, right, India across, even it's actually much better than any other country, Western countries, right, when you go and do it, right, even cost-wise, right, all the connectivity, we are much better there, right, and also there's a large talent pool, like, right, maybe a few years back, if, right, allocated all IITs and all, they want to go to Western countries, right. It's not the case now, right? They want to start up the country in India. That's a big factor, right? Right? This one changed the mindset. And a lot of data usage in India, right? Smartphone, huge data, right? Right? If you compare to any of the country India is using, right? Are consuming a lot of data that helping us in the AI side. Again, investment side, yes, right? As a country, we are not there, right? But it's actually improving, right? If you look at like few years back, now there's a lot of investment, even all the big companies, they're trying to invest in the startups now in India. So that's what I see trend.
Yeah. Shayak, I have another question. So where do you think creativity, what's your take on creativity in terms of AI's innovation?
Okay, so एक बंदा है जिसका ना क्रिएटिविटी है, पर उसको ना हिंदी आता है, इंग्लिश नहीं आता है. अब प्रॉब्लम क्या हो जाता है कि लोग उसको ना बोलेंगे तुम्हें क्रिएटिविटी नहीं आता है क्योंकि तुमको इंग्लिश में लिखना नहीं आता, बोलना नहीं आता है. राइट? मुझे बिजनेस का आइडिया है बट कोडिंग नहीं आता है, तो मतलब ये नहीं कि मेरा क्रिएटिविटी नहीं है. ओके, सो द सिंपल आंसर इज दैट देयर आर द वे टू थिंक अबाउट दिस इज what is first principles thinking and what is second principles thinking. First principles thinking is take a big problem, break it down into its most fundamental unit and solve for that unit. If you have the ability to do that, then you have creativity, no matter which line of work I am in. So if I'm going to write a poetry, I need to understand the idea and I need to understand how I'm going to write it. If I'm Shakespeare, I'm going to write it in iambic pentameter, right? But I need to be able to create that particular solution. And especially in the world of business, it becomes very critical to do that. Now, the limitation that has been existent so far is that you have an idea, you don't have funding, so you can't hire the developer, you can't build it. Or you have an idea, you can't communicate it to people, you can't do the pitch properly, so you can't get funding. Sure. If I could essentially cut those two things out, and I could say, I have an idea, let AI convert it into a business model, and let AI take that business model and convert it into code and a ready application, और मैं जाता हूँ मेरे कॉलेज में सारे बच्चों को यूज़ कराता हूँ, जाता हूँ मेरे कम्युनिटी में मेरे बिल्डिंग के सब लोग यूज़ करने लग जाए ग्रोसरी खरीदने में. आई डोंट नो व्हाट दैट आइडिया इज, लेट इट बी एनी आइडिया. मैं प्रूव कर देता हूँ कि काम करता है, तो कौन इन्वेस्ट नहीं करेगा? वो पिच विच की गोली मारो, लेट इट वर्क, लेट पीपल टेक दैट आइडिया टू एक्चुअल क्रिएशन. दैट इज द पॉइंट ऑफ एआई.
Thank you.
मैं थोड़ा क्रिएटिविटी में ऐड करूँ इसमें.
Yeah, okay.
So अभी भी सौ कि सोरा आ गया है. देर इज दिस चाइनीज मॉडल कॉल्ड लूमा रे है, राइट? वीडियो जनरेशन विच यूज टू बी सो एक्सपेंसिव बिकॉज आपको प्रोडक्शन चाहिए, टैलेंट चाहिए, देन सेट बनाना पड़ेगा, फिर CGI लगाना पड़ेगा. ऑल ऑफ दैट हैज़ बिकम सुपर 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 चीप, राइट? दिस ईयर वैलेंटाइंस पे जो हमारा ब्रांड फिल्म आएगा, दैट विल बी completely AI generated, right? I create some content on LinkedIn and Instagram. उसकी शुरू की स्क्रिप्ट्स मैंने लिखी थी, शुरू की वीडियोस मैंने बनाई थी, वो स्क्रिप्ट्स मैंने चैट जीपीटी में डाली, मेरा समझ ले. नाउ ऑल माई स्क्रिप्ट्स आर, आई जस्ट गिव देम अ टॉपिक टू चैट जीपीटी, वो मेरे स्टाइल में पूरी स्क्रिप्ट लिख देता है. हेजन पे मेरा 2 मिनट का आप अपनी वीडियो डाल लो स्पीकिंग इन द कैमरा, हेजन आपका एक AI अवतार बना देता है. ठीक है? इफ़ यू गो ऑन माई प्रोफाइल ऑन इंस्टा और लिंक्डइन, लास्ट आई थिंक 20-30 वीडियोज़ में से 80% आर completely AI generated, and you cannot tell the difference. Even voice, 11 labs को यूज़ करके आप अपनी वॉइस ट्रेन कर लो, उसकी वॉइस हेजन यूज़ कर लेगा और लिपसिंग कर देगा. It is indistinguishable, and that technology is available for 2,000 rupees a month to everybody who just wants to build it.
All the Chinese
Nice.
models are literally free. So if you go
Yeah.
to Minimax Hylio or you go to Heygen,
Yeah.
these are all Chinese models, free. Build whatever you want.
Yeah. So, Vinay, how do you think we've discussed about what is driving AI's innovation, but how India can achieve that AI sovereignty? What's your take there?
Yeah, I mean, there has already been a lot of demand and pull around CPUs and GPUs as well, right? So who is going to get that compute? Because compute is the main source for building, let's say, a larger model or a disruptive models going forward. Every geography has kind of realized it, and now everybody is working towards how do we achieve sovereignty, because even this week we have seen US regulations saying that you can't distribute or export models beyond, beyond certain number of params, which kind of restricts everything, major part of it, right? So there have been efforts where India AI as a group is trying to achieve the sovereignty, starting from GPU sourcing. So there was supposed to be a $2 billion investment around setting up a GPU infrastructure farm, which will be given access to all the universities, corporates, startups who wants to build models. That's our step probably one at the moment. I think, having said that, I think Shayak was also mentioning about what is our capacity to build the foundation models. That's where we lack a lot of skill sets and ability to do that, because it requires a community of research and compute as well to be able to solve and build those kind of infrastructures, which we currently do not have. The only good example that we have is Arya.ai, which has raised about $50 million and now built a bunch of India-focused kind of LLMs or SLMs. But that's just one-off example. So, if you look at US, UK, or China, for example, so to be able to realize a good foundation model which is defendable across the globe, so you require maybe a couple of $1 million, couple of $100 million minimum investment to do, simply to train the model, which we do not have. India was always great at applied AI and engineering AI, which is what most of our use cases have been. So not in fundamental research or fundamental AI. That's where we are lacking. We are taking very slow steps at the moment. But again, so now the CPU, GPU story is very, very, I would say, very hot at the moment. Also because of the regulations. We'll just have to see how the next set of government going to handle that when the next cycle comes up. But that's a big trigger.
I just add to
Debmalya, yeah.
just add to Vinay a couple of points. you talked about AI sovereignty. A large part of AI sovereignty is data sovereignty, right? Now, to achieve data sovereignty in a holistic way, while the journey has started, right, we should look at the aspect around, I think Shayak already spoke about the 3 layers of an end-to-end data AI stack, right? If you look at underlying compute plus hardware layer, that layer, the aspect around looking at boundaries of data within a nation, right, and putting that data into a data center within that community, within that ecosystem is important. So, which only enables that the data, while the data is not leaving the shores, that will take data sovereignty to the next level. That's one. Now, how to achieve it? Obviously, aspects like building data centers, which includes your server, compute, etc. Then the next level is building your AI models, which will act on that data, on the country-specific data, to build intelligence for the citizens of that country. Right? So that pays data sovereignty is one. Now, if I look at India today, the government is also looking at a lot of measures to encourage data sovereignty. Aspects like missions like national strategy for AI has come out. There also is a scope of a lot of public-private partnerships, which will only take the aspect around building next generation data centers in India by a huge margin as compared to what it is today. Today we are still starting, or we have started, with a few private sector companies talking about it in a big way, but we have to leapfrog from talking to doing it actually on the ground. That's one. And also, as at a grassroots level, I think Vinay has touched upon it in a brief way. The aspect around looking at generating a lot of AI engineers in India and introducing it at a grassroots level. For example, introducing AI curriculums at a grassroots level, at a college level, will obviously help a lot of students get interested in this topic and pursue their respective passions and fields in a specific way, which will not only elevate the overall literacy percentage and the literacy level in this very specialized and research-oriented field by a huge way, but also encourage a lot of startup founders to look at this problem in a differentiated way, which again connects back to your previous question on creativity, right? So it's all connected, right? If you look at data sovereignty, that plays a big role in AI sovereignty. If I look at data sovereignty, the enabler of that would be limiting data going out of the respective shores of the country, which will look at creation of the data centers, high energy compute, and data centers in India, powered by models which our engineers have to develop, which will work on that data to create India-specific or country-specific information, which can be leveraged by the people of that country.
May I just?
Yeah, sure.
I won't take more than a minute, I promise. Okay, so 5 levels where we are focusing only on 1 level. That is what Debmalya was also saying. So you have the compute level. कंप्यूट अगर हम बाहर से मंगा रहे हैं और वो देश अगर एक्सपोर्ट पे कंट्रोल लगा देता है तो हमारे पास कंप्यूट रहता नहीं है. यूएस ने ऑलरेडी लगा दिया है एक तरीके से. ओके तो हमारे देश में मैन्युफैक्चर करना जरूरी है, विच इज़ नॉट हैपनिंग येट. पॉइंट नंबर 2, डेटा पे ऑलरेडी हमें पता है कि मेटा ने, मार्क ज़करबर्ग ने लिबजेन यूज़ किया है, जो एक्चुअली पायरेटेड डेटाबेस है. अभी पब्लिक में आ गया न्यूज़, और सबको पता है कि ओपनएआई ने तो पूरा का पूरा कॉपी मारा है, एंड गूगल ने तो अपना डेटा, वट एवर आर डेटा इज, दे हैव यूज्ड इट. सो बड़े मॉडल बनाने के लिए वैसे डेटा कहीं पब्लिकली अवेलेबल होना चाहिए, जो डेटा इंडिया में उतना जल्दी मिलता नहीं है. द प्रॉब्लम व्हेन यू ट्राई टू क्रिएट इंडिक मॉडल्स, जो भाषिनी का सीईओ वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट कि मैं कैसे बनाऊँ, उतने लोकल लैंग्वेज में डेटा ही नहीं है. हाउ विल आई बिल्ड अ मॉडल? सिंथेटिक जनरेट कर नहीं सकते उस लेवल पे. अच्छा, थर्ड प्रॉब्लम ये है कि जो बड़े मॉडल्स होते हैं, मॉडल्स इंडिया में बनाना ज़रूरी है. नाउ वाइल आई एग्री मॉडल्स बनाना है, आज China has shown us that you can build models for $5-6 million. DeepSeek V3 is a O1 level model, $5.1 million, proved with the entire research paper out. Which means if we have $5.1 million in GPU, maybe give $100,000 extra in case I make a mistake. But the point is we should be able to replicate O1, that if I have the data also, by the way. And the last point is, इसके ऊपर एक platform होना जरूरी है, which people will use to create the final use cases. हमारा problem ये कि
तो आप दे ही रहे हो?
हाँ?
वो तो आप दे ही रहे हो?
Not really. Everybody has to compute. So the point is, We are focusing only on the use cases. We are not focusing on the fundamental layers. And now India AI has released a 10,000 crore ka tender, जिसमें everybody has applied. Hopefully that will give compute. But वो compute बाहर से खरीद रहे हैं, हम यहाँ पर बना नहीं रहे. We need to be building it here.
That opportunity should be given. Yeah, Prabhu, your take.
Yeah, that's right, right. India always been on this one software side that we want to develop, right? But hardware side, building our own chip, right, own the computing, it was always been the challenge. I think now government is taking initiative that started, I think, right now in Ahmedabad, they want to build a chip thing, right? They had this, right? So India is going to build it, but as you said, right, we should build our own thing. Should be, right, we should have our own thing, right? Anybody can, right, so if you look at India, so India, Russia, what happened, right? US and Russia, they put all the restrictions, right? So we ought to be our own, independent for, right, on the hardware side as well as, I agree with them, what they said.
Yeah, and it, as a developing nation, we can further help other developing nations, what we create here. But now, whenever such innovation and technology comes, their question comes the approach, right? There's a EU approach where there's a legal framework, a very organized way. Then there is a US approach whereby you see the innovation, there's a aggressive way of doing. Where do you see that India should take their approach of taking AI as a revolution in India? I'll start with Prabhu.
So in my opinion, we should have our own approach. Again, right, we are not there yet. But I think these are two different things, EU and US. I think we should take like balanced approach. Usually US says that you have to do, right, usually they say that they're giving self-managed, right? They're asking organization to build your own, so right, regulation and rules, right? And they actually, right, if you look at Europe, they have actually more precautionary, right? They have more laws and all, right? So as a country, India, I think we should have a balance. We should need actually both. US for the growth and for you for the like all ethical AI, right? That's a big thing now, right? AI has to be used very carefully. So we should take both approaches. That's what my view.
Shayak.
If we look at the world of technology globally, चार बड़े approaches हैं. The first is US approach, which is driven by large companies, जिसको हम FANG बोलते हैं, जो भी बोलते हैं. So US में अगर कोई भी budget देखो, NVIDIA का budget देखो, 6 कंपनी पूरा NVIDIA का 90% revenue देता है. बाकी क्या दे रहे हैं NVIDIA को उतना फर्क नहीं पड़ता. So it's basically we are looking at a very big set of companies. Quick fact: 1985 when I was born, 33% of US GDP was small businesses. Today, 7% of US GDP is small business. They've killed it because of the big business approach that US takes. China, a very centralized approach. We know, I'm not going to expand on it. Europe, very regulatory approach. And India, very services approach. This has been the approach of the different major geographies in the world. आज अगर AI में we have to win and we have to take a leadership at least in the top 2, top 3, because others are doing the job. They're not going to sit idle while we wait and we decide what to do. So our approach should be a mix of where our strength is, services, sure, but also innovation. We have to, at least to a large extent, I see that we have to bring in manufacturing of the GPUs and the core technologies here. We have to bring in the core models here to an extent and have our own capabilities.
Snehil,
Yeah, so I am myself very divided on this issue because हम सब ने सुना होगा कि यार China became China because of the government. India में कोई भी startup business becomes that big despite the government, right? तो because जहाँ पे आप ज़्यादा regulation लगा दो तो फिर वो बहुत ज़्यादा bureaucracy आ जाता है, innovation stifle हो जाता है. At the same time, this remains the fact. After atom bombs, AI is the only industry जिसके क्रिएटर्स ने खुद बोला है कि यार हमें रेगुलेट कर दो. रिसेंटली जो अभी हम ओवन चैट जीपीटी का ओवन मॉडल है उसके एक न्यूज़ आई थी कि दैट मॉडल ओवरराइड इट्स ओन ओवरसाइट मैकेनिज्म, ट्रांसफर्ड कोड, चेंज द कोड, ट्राई टू ट्रांसफर फ्रॉम वन सर्वर टू अनदर जस्ट बिकॉज उसको ये बोला गया था कि यू आर बीइंग रिप्लेस्ड, राइट? तो उसने अपने सर्वाइवल को ज़्यादा प्रायोरिटी दी वर्सेस डेवलपर के इंस्ट्रक्शन से, राइट? विच वॉज वेरी अलार्मिंग बिकॉज नाउ AI इज़ नाउ फोकस टुवर्ड्स सेल्फ प्रेजर्वेशन ऑल्सो, राइट? तो काफ़ी एक बैलेंस्ड अप्रोच लेना पड़ेगा. एंड मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि यार ऐसा नहीं है कि अगर हम अगले 5 साल में नहीं भी जीत पाए तो नहीं जीत पाएंगे. पेमेंट्स फॉर एग्जांपल is such an old industry, tech payments. India ने UPI निकाला, now India is exporting
largest,
that technology, right? तो मेरे को लगता है जल्दबाजी की कोई नीड ही नहीं है, बट सही तरीके से ये करना भी बहुत ज़रूरी है, बिकॉज अभी तो हम सिर्फ जेन एआई देख रहे हैं, फिर जब आर्टिफिशियल जनरल इंटेलिजेंस एंड आजकल एक नया वर्ड फेंका है, आई थिंक सैम एल्टमैन ने ही, आर्टिफिशियल सुपर इंटेलिजेंस,
Yeah.
राइट? तो वो तो कोई स्काईनेट टाइप ही साउंड भी करता है, एंड वो कुछ कुछ इंस्टेंसेस ऐसे दिख भी रहे हैं कि यार ऑफ कोर्स हम बना सकते हैं जितने ओवरराइड मैकेनिज्म वगैरह हार्डवेयर डिपेंडेंट बना सकते हैं, बट इट्स अ ब्लैक बॉक्स, राइट? इवन द क्रिएटर्स डोंट रियली नो व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, एंड ओवन वाला केस तो काफ़ी थोड़ा डरावना भी था.
Right. Vinay, what's your take there?
Yeah, I think we've always been a unique country trying to map the growth rate of China, execution strategy of maybe US, right? So that's always our aspiration to grow as much as fast as same as China in the last 20 years, for example. We have never taken a larger inspiration from Europe for sure, whereas some of our regulations were taken an inspiration from Europe. Like our DPDP is pretty much very close to GDPR than Data Privacy Act in US. I think we have to be really humble in terms of what we want to achieve in the next 5-10 years, and the policy should align to it. Let's say if we want to achieve the sovereignty, then we know that the lacking points are our ability to able to produce all the core components internally by ourselves, right? Including from intellectual talent to hardware to data sets. In that case, then there have to be a lot of preference to more localization than trying to globalize a bunch of use cases. But again, I think right now there's a lot of discussion. Even last week, there was a release of AI regulations for comments from MeitY as well. It's that first draft is very, very simplified approach to AI regulations. At central level, there is now a lot of attention, even at a government level. That's why this $1 billion investment came through as well, right? But I think we have a lot to catch up. So we are at least 5-10 years behind what China is. If China is able to produce a competitive research and products as much as US, you should imagine what they would have done in the last 10 years. So that's probably is what we should be looking at.
Thank you. Debmalya, your take.
Yeah, so while I know that we've spoken about a lot of countries and their respective approaches, to be honest, we don't have an answer today, right? The approach is still evolving. So my articulation on this would be, and the reason why it's evolving because we've not yet reached the finish line. So the approach will define how we reach there, right? Now, as a part of my articulation today, what I can think of is a few things which can define that approach, right? One is obviously the aspect around the government side, where there are two things. One is the government side in terms of how policies can shape an approach. Second is the initiatives taken by citizens, which can contribute to that approach. Coming to the first one, if I look at the government, obviously aspects like funding, investment, regulations, how they look at encouraging startup community, all of that will go a long way. Second, if I look at the aspect around citizens, looking at private-public partnerships, looking at more innovation, looking at producing more talent, will definitely contribute to that approach of having a creativity-led, focused approach to doing things. And obviously community, things like, if there are startups which even fail, right? Aspects around encouraging those startups to kind of look at alternate business models and doing that. So I believe all of this will contribute to an approach which India can definitely take, looking at the approaches which some of the developed nations have taken and then define its own approach. It's difficult to kind of copy an approach from a country and apply it to our country and expect success. I don't think that will happen. But the approach has to be a mix of these 2 or 3 things. And as I said, we are far from the approach that we would ideally like to do. And that's where, as I see, the government is looking at a lot of initiatives, a lot of startups are coming up, and we are on our way to defining that approach as of today. But the approach can only be defined and can be measured, because the benchmark of any approach is its the measure of an approach would be the definition of how soon you succeed, right? So that ways, we need to take regular evaluations also. So the evaluations can only happen if we initiate a dialogue and there is a regulation. Based on the regulation, the citizens work, we come up with ideas, implement those ideas at least at a POC level, and then look at how things shape up. So those things have to come up slowly, but we are on the right track.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah, and summarize also.
Yes. So I think
You have 7 seconds.
yes, ASI, artificial superintelligence, is the equivalent of 1 million human beings' capability. So there are 2 points we need to think here. Ki, is there a limit to intelligence and is there a limit to scaling? Scaling law जिसको हम बोलते हैं, जिसके बदौलत आज इतने investment हो रहे हैं, prove ये हो चुका है कि models actually सोच नहीं रहे, they're doing pattern matching, right? अब पहले वाले models एक type के pattern matching करते थे, अभी के जो O1, O3 जो आया है, which is so better, is because post training किया गया है, और post training में उनको वो particular job सिखाया गया है, और ऊपर से एक और एजेंट लगाया गया है जो रिवर्स चेक कर रहा है कि ठीक जवाब दे रहा है नहीं, इसलिए थोड़ा ज़्यादा टाइम ले रहा है, बट दैट इज़ नॉट येट थिंकिंग, दैट इज स्टिल पैटर्न मैचिंग. So we have not reached a point where models can think for themselves. We have not reached a point where scaling law is proved कि वो हमेशा scale करता रहेगा. So there is a big scope for us to catch up and become best at this particular place. So it's not disheartening, to be honest.
Thank you so much. Time is up. So I think it is evident that creativity and technology can really influence the India's innovation and can take it to the next level where we are taking this AI to. So thank you. Any questions?
Thank
Or
you
do
so
we have
much.
time?
We can take one question. We have time for one question only. Any questions, anyone? Okay, I think everyone is very clear. No questions from the audience.
We've been very detailed.